Hello, everyone. How's it going? A couple minutes late because we were getting a different setup set up. So welcome to the Wednesday solder sesh, which will in fact be a solder sesh tonight because we will be soldering. Not hand soldering though. We're going to be assembling a board with the stencil and bake method. So this is kind of, oh, hello, Bob. How's it going? It's kind of a method that is good for doing prototypes and small runs of boards that, you know, if you're a small business or even if you're a person, although I would definitely not recommend trying a toaster oven that you eat food in. You don't want to mix solder and food. But if you have like a dedicated oven for reflow, then you can totally like do it at home. So I'll talk a little bit more about our reflow ovens when we move out into the shop. Let us know if there's any audio issues. We're using, lavalier mic today, so range should be fine, but just in case it's not, let us know, please. And yeah, I think that's mostly it. So we do have a few sneak peeks today, which are kind of fun. Yeah. So right now what you see here is all of the parts for the RBG board that we'll be hand placing and putting on the boards. But the thing that I want to show you is Robin's super cool spooky coffin board. So spooky. That's a very slow zoom. There we go. Spooky. So the purple one was the original Osh Park one. And it uses these cool like flickering red LEDs. This is one that is, do we not have, no battery. Okay. We have an extra battery over here. That one has battery, excellent. So this one has a pin on it. That's why it sticks up a little bit proud on the bench. There we go. Woo! And then one too. Woo! Yay! So these will be up on Tindy. Excellent. Glad the audio is good. These will be up on Tindy pretty soon, and also on our very own website. AlpenGlowIndustries.com now has a storefront, so it'll be up there as well for all of your buying pleasure. And we're also trying to get these on DigiKey pretty soon too. It's just a little more complicated to get products up on DigiKey, so it takes us a little longer. But we have like a nice little backlog now of rain clouds and storm clouds and now spooky coffins, so we'll get those up on there too. Because you never know where you might be shopping and need some like fun little solder kits, right? Yeah. Okay. So what do we got going on other than spooky coffins? So I'll show you the one board that we've assembled so far, just to remind you what's going on here. So we have the inimitable Ruth Bader Ginsburg here, and with her glowing rainbow eyes, and she's watching you. And then we also have the mode that is just glowing red eyes. She's watching you and she's pissed, which probably she's more like glowing red eyes these days, But anyway, this is, can be worn as a badge or just like put on your desk as a badge, but also it doubles as a dev board for the @Tiny4 processor, which is that little SOT236 part in the middle. And we have a bunch of switches here. So this is like on-off switch that connects or disconnects the battery. This is the red or rainbow switch to control those two different blinking modes. We also have 3 switches here, the RGB dip switches, and if you turn those off, those will actually isolate the outputs from the LEDs. So it'll disconnect like the badge part of the circuitry. And what that enables you to do is solder on your own header here and just stick it into a breadboard, and it allows you to make your own circuit. This big switch right here switches a whole bunch of signals between between going either, out to your circuit or out to the eyes, switches between that and going to the programming connector. So when you program the board, you just put the switch in programming mode. That isolates everything. It even isolates the power, which is good because you have to program this board with 5 volts, but you might want to run it off of 3 volts like we're doing. So that totally disconnects the power from the 3-volt source, attaches it to a 5-volt source that is coming from the programmer, and allows you to program without any other circuitry in the way. So that's very convenient and handy. And that's pretty much all it does. That's it. So you can write whatever code your heart desires on the @tiny4 and see if you can get tiny little programs to work. It will also, if you want to use any of the boards, any of the other chips in the series, it will also work with the @tiny5, the @tiny9, or the @tiny10. So all you have to do is just wipe that little chip off, solder the one that you have on, and you're good to go. Yeah, so that's basically the board. So what we're going to be doing today is assembling this board. And turn this guy off. And I think we're pretty much ready to go to take this show into the shop and show it to you. And the beverage of choice today is a 2 Broads Cider Works push mower. You might think, Carrie, that is a 17-ounce bottle. Isn't that kind of a lot? Well, it is, but it is delightfully only 3.5%. So you could totally drink a 17-ounce bottle of this and not be schnockered. 2 Broads Cider Works, total plug for them here. 2 Broads Cider Works. Actually, can we make them big? Yeah, let's do that. Big. Okay. They're awesome. They are friends of the Alpenglow, and their cidery is just pretty much right down the street from us. It's 2 blocks away. And they are fantastic. They're, doing a lot of bootstrappy kind of stuff to get started. Their tasting room is almost set up, and you can taste by appointment there now. So all you have to do is contact them off of their website. And they are making really fantastic hard ciders that are pretty dry, not sweet, but a lot of really excellent flavors in them. So they're in San Luis Obispo. If you're in town, give them a check out. All right. Does the Arduino IDE support @tiny45910 boards? That is a very good question. So it does. However, you have to upload an @tiny. I think it's called the @tiny10 core, and I can try to show that to you a little bit later too. Yeah, we can do a screen share, and maybe we might be able to get one fully assembled and try to program it. It's always the test of, did you do everything right? And at that point in time, I can screen share and show you a little bit more. But yes, so there's a special core for it. What you have to know is that you can't really use any Arduino libraries in it. So if you have only written Arduino code and you have never really written standard C, and you've only used the digital write and digital read in order to read and write to I/O pins, then there's a little bit of learning to do in order to, you do the same thing, but you just kind of access those port registers directly. And it's really, you're doing the exact same thing. It's just different words that you're using to do it. So yeah, I kind of want to do a little bit later, that's kind of a live stream topic in and of itself, is actually going over the code and showing you what each line does and how to do that. So this is a really, it's a pretty fun way if you've been thinking about okay, well, I can program Arduinos pretty well and I'm pretty cool with that, but I really want to learn about how to put a processor down on a board and how to really directly program it without the Arduino environment, or even with the Arduino environment, but in just a little bit more of an efficient way. Then yeah, this is a good little excuse to do that. Almost bare metal programming. Yeah, it's just different. I just want to say I don't feel like there's any more of a learning curve. It's just learning a slightly different language. You do have to think in ones and zeros a little bit more. So instead of like, what's an example? Like instead of just maybe being able to read one pin, you have to think about like, okay, I'm actually reading an entire bank of pins at once, and I have to like isolate the one pin that I'm looking at. And you do that by using like bitwise math. And honestly, if I'm not in the habit of doing it, I have to like look up the bitwise operations every time, because, you know, I'll take a break of 6 months or whatever and be doing other things and then come back to it, and I'll have to like kind of get my brain in that mode again. But, you know, it's just like anything else. You just like kind of learn your way around. You learn what the rules are. You already know what you're doing if you're programming Arduinos, because this is definitely like an intermediate level thing. This is not, I would not recommend doing this for beginners. But, you know, if you're already comfortable with Arduino, there's no reason that you can't also become comfortable with like just direct C programming and using the register shorthands and things like that. It would be even more efficient to program these in assembly. I haven't taken that jump yet. I've done like a little bit of poking here and there, and have like done a few online classes about it, but I haven't really sat down to try to write a program in assembly yet. And I would actually like to do that with this board and see if there's any efficiency to be gained from going to like my minimalist C code to assembly. But that will be yet another continuation, probably in several months, because we got a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, all right. Well, I think it's time to take this show on the road and go back into the shop and do some board stuff. Yeah. All right.
We don't really need these ones up right now,
No,
do
I think just phone. Put that other one on. Yeah. Okay. So
we? I can just do
yes. Perfect.
just leave it up. Okay.
Now we should have audio. If you could just let us know that audio is now okay again, that would be fantastic. I know there's like a little bit of a delay between StreamYard and YouTube, so I'll just drink some delicious cider here. Okay, so I'm going to head out into the shop now and not walk through the glass door.
Oh. Do you need a hand or you got it? La la la. La la la.
No, I'm just gonna leave it open for now. Cool. Let's see.
Okay.
Audio equals none. Okay, yeah. Well, that's good.
Is that interfering?
No, it shouldn't. I wonder if we're just like range limited on this little guy.
Oh.
Are we still? Let's see. Actually, can you go to the mic setup again? Or actually, let me see for a second.
There we go. Yeah, it's back.
Okay. It's back. Okay. So we might just be out of range. Yeah, we're back now. Interesting. Okay. I am going to try something that I
Do a phone audio?
Yeah, I'm gonna do phone audio. I'm just gonna mute this guy just in case.
Okay, so I'm gonna mute.
No,
Or
don't
no,
mute.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
because I just manually muted it. So.
But on here is phone cam.
Okay. No, you don't mute anything. Or unmute phone cam. Yes.
You got it. You unmuted
I have
it.
to. I got it. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Fun with audio. Okay. Hopefully there should be audio now. I'll do the little intro again. So this is the hot bench. That is a manual stencil aligner. And so what that does is it allows you to really line up the stencils so that your solder paste can be super, super consistent and even. And if you're doing maybe 10 boards or more, that's a really great thing to have. Stencils with frames cost a bit more. So if I'm only doing a few boards, like for this RGB board, we just use the little aligner, which I'll show you more of in a little bit. And then these are the reflow ovens. And yeah, I should probably like plug those in and stuff. So those are the reflow ovens. And, you know, they are relatively cheap AliExpress items, like maybe a couple $100 for the big one, I think. And I have two because I managed to get one off of a friend as well. Why not have two? And so they're cool because they have these temperature profiles already programmed in, and you just, you know, turn it to the profile and it does that whole heating method that's really the perfect, you know, the perfect profile that the solder wants to see in order to flow better. So I'm going to now put this phone, hopefully I won't hang up, like not accidentally pressing leave. All right, put the phone in the other holder. All right, and let's see. I think that's pretty good. So this is the stencil that we're using. Yeah, we're having the stencils are shiny, so you see a lot of reflection here. So this is the board. This is the back of the board that we're assembling. And what you do here, this shiny thing is the stencil. We get them from Osh Stencils. And basically there is just, there are little holes, there are little square holes everywhere that there's a pad. And the stencil is created off of the paste layer of your circuit board assembly. And so your paste layers are exported as separate layers. And you just export your paste layer to Osh Stencils and they make you a stencil based upon that. So I'm just using like a simple tape hinge right now. And this is my board alignment jig right now. And you can also, I mean, Osh Stencils provides these. You can grab those from Osh Stencils as well. And I've just set it up to nicely hold this board. And now, when I put this down over top, you can see that that there's like gold in all of my pads. Let's see if I can get even a better view of this. So what I'm seeing is just that the gold plating over each pad of the circuit board. And if it was like a little bit misaligned, you know, you would see dark there as well. So it's pretty great when you're like perfectly aligned, everything, like your whole board just kind of like lights up and looks awesome. So we know that we're nice and aligned right there. Cool. And at this point, I am going to go grab a power cord and some gloves. Oh, and the actual solder paste. I forgot to bring that out ahead of time. But it's always nice to use gloves when you're doing this, because you don't want to get you don't want to get solder balls everywhere, and it's not going to damage your skin, especially if it's lead-free solder like the one that we're using, but it's just good to not have tiny balls of solder everywhere that you might potentially ingest and things like that. So gloves are always a good idea. All right. So, all right, I got gloves. Putting those on. You can get solder paste from like pretty much anywhere these days. You can just get it straight from Stencils if you want, or you can get it from like DigiKey, Amazon. There are a lot of different types of solder paste. We are trying to do our best to like convert fully to lead-free stuff. So we're just getting lead-free solder and lead-free solder paste now. And yeah, you can get either no clean or water-soluble flux. I kind of like water-soluble flux because it cleans really nice, but Stencils just only provides no clean. It's a little cold. I should have warmed it up a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit hard to spread, but that's okay. So yeah, Stencils only has the no clean, so was not able to get water soluble from them, but DigiKey has water soluble. And then the other thing that you want is something that kind of acts like a squeegee, and you can get like credit cards from Stencils. I think that's what they provide. I personally like this paint shield thingy the best because it's really stiff, so it's easier to get paste into all of these tiny little holes, and it's also very, very straight on the edge, where sometimes the plastic just isn't quite straight, and again, it's just harder to get it into the holes sometimes. So actually, before I spread that, I'm just going to grab plug in our oven here before I forget. We were moving this bench around a little bit the other day, so it just got back into its normal spot again. So make this maybe a little bit bigger. And there we go. So now I'm basically going to wipe it like this, and I'm going to do it kind of slow and trying to sort of be pressing down and in to get the paste really into those holes. And that's like enough paste, but since it's a little bit cold and might have a little bit harder time spreading it than usual, I think I'm gonna just put a little bit more. I can get the lid off again. There we go. So I think I might just like put more down here. Yeah, and even just squeezing it out right now, just like a couple minutes warming up made a pretty big difference there. It's good to keep it in the refrigerator because the flux will eventually kind of like kind of congeal and not be as effective, and then it'll be really, really hard to spread. So when that starts happening, when your solder paste gets hard to spread, you want to just throw it away and get new solder paste. Okay, so here we go. Pressing down, kind of going slow. I can see that I'm getting good coverage here. Don't get quite the coverage I wanted. It's probably a lot like, I don't know, there's like painting with like, it's like a paint technique with like really pasty things that you kind of, you know, kind of like the Bob Ross technique where you kind of like spread it and scrape it and do different things to make different things. All right, and so now I'm just kind of going across the top and I'm scraping off all of the excess, or as much of the excess as I can. The key to this, and I'm like looking to see if I see any more gold shiny. I see a little bit over here, so I'm just gonna like put a little bit more. Technically, it's best to get it in as few passes as you can, because the more I press down, the more this stencil just to like wiggles just a little bit, and it makes it makes your like the solder on your pads just like a little bit more goopy and less well defined. And especially if the stencil here isn't perfectly flat to your board, if there's like a little bit of space between your stencil and your board, then it can sort of mush out beyond these openings, these apertures, and that can cause like pads to bridge and you to get too much paste in places that you don't want paste. So I'm going to now very carefully peel this up, and I'm going to do it just kind of like all at once. Again, because I want to really preserve as much as I can the solder paste, like just the shape and everything of the solder paste within those holes. So that's up. And then just going back like that. I'm actually I'm gonna clean this whole, bench area, just kind of putting it on a paper towel a little bit there. So now you can see that was pretty nice. And we'll look at it under the microscope too, so you'll be able to get a really good view of it. But the solder paste looks like it applied really well. You will notice that there are a couple places that don't have solder paste, and that is intentional. That is, the circle here is the negative contact of the battery. And this is an optional programming connector that you would hand solder. So it's nice to not have lumps of solder on those pads already. And same here with the programming connector. That's optional because a lot of people probably are just going to want to wear this as a badge and might not take advantage of the dev board aspect of it. So we just left that connector off so that those people would have like a flatter back for the badge. So yeah, there we go. The other thing that I'm going to do at this point, I am going to actually here we will just I'll show you very carefully. So very carefully, sort of like by this edge here, just grab that out. And at this point, you want to be careful to not, touch the board and smush that solder paste all around. So like only pick it up by the edges and stuff. Thinking it would be good to have something kind of flattish to put this on. I'm gonna grab a like cardboard thing. Actually, I won't. I'm just going to take this in. I'm going to very gently kind of set it down on the edge of the table here while I take my gloves off and get the camera turned around and stuff. All right. So we have the board just sitting there. What I'm going to do now, these ovens benefit from a little bit of preheating. And so what we're going to do is we're going to turn the oven on at this point in time.
And we're just gonna run it through a cycle just with nothing in it. Make sure nothing's in it, nothing's in it. And we're just gonna run it through a cycle. And so it'll just heat up and it'll all come to a nice even temperature. Because I found that makes the actual reflow go a lot better. So, you know, these are set up with menus that have an English translation from Chinese. So they're a little bit, you know, a little bit funky, but no big deal. They have some pre-programmed waves in them for different types of solder, and I've made a post-it note cheat sheet here. So this one, our solder that we're using is it's a tin lead copper, and so we're going to do wave 3 here because it's about 70. What is it? I think actually like 95. Yeah, 95 tin, 4 silver, and like 0.5 copper or something like that. I feel like that's a little bit, I think it's a little bit different than that, but actually we can look right. We should be able to look right on here. Let's see. Yeah, it's actually not showing, oh, Kester NXG1, so we could look that up. But basically, either wave 3 or wave 4 will work for lead-free. They're just like a slight bit different depending upon the different formulations. So I am going to press F3 to select a wave, and then F1 goes forward, so wave 2. So that's wave 3. It has a pretty high peak there. And wave 4 has a little bit of a lower peak. So yeah, I'm going to do wave 3 because in general, lead-free solder needs like a little bit of a higher temperature to reflow, and I want to make sure like the whole board is reflowed. So there we go. And then F4 is okay. And then we just say F1, temp wave auto execute. And there we go. Our wave 3 is going. So we'll let that run. And we will carefully take our board and walk into the room with the microscope. Do, do, do. And there we go. All right. So I'm just going to put this one down for right now. We can switch over to
View. Yeah. Awesome. And cool. Then, all right. Hopefully you should be able to hear me again. Yay. Oh wait, I left my beer in the other room. No. So for whatever reason, I couldn't see the comments on YouTube in the live chat on the tablet. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like a tablet thing or maybe I just don't know where to look, but they weren't like automatically popping up.
I'm pretty sure this mic is still picking stuff up when I was in here.
Switch to lav succeeded.
Because I could hear it.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll figure it out later. I don't know. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So, all right. Oh. So let's see. Now let's switch to. Yeah, we could probably do the side by side. I think that would work well. Yes. Just zoomed, I think.
Motor source. Switch. To switch motor source.
Oh, source.
There we go.
Cool. So, there we go. Let's see. Make sure it's good for you guys too. So, here we go. Yeah, the stencils come from, well, I get them from Osh Stencils. You can get them from some other circuit board places will also offer you like, hey, do you also want a stencil with your board? But when I buy from Osh Park, I get a stencil from Osh Stencils, and they've actually integrated a little bit. At least like Osh Park kind of like sends you directly to Osh Stencils website. I don't know if it automatically, I can't remember if the files are automatically loaded from whatever you just uploaded to Osh Park or not, but it makes it like a little more seamless, which is super nice. And they're really cheap and they're fast and they're always super good quality. They do offer a vinyl stencil. I've never used them. I basically, they're like, using the steel stencils is difficult enough when you have small things. And I mean, you can see right here that it's not perfect, right? There are slight misalignments. The stencil on the pads is not perfectly, rectangular. So with vinyl that is not stiff, it's just gonna, it's not gonna have, it's not gonna be very good for really small apertures. So yeah, and I think that these are like 25 bucks for a stencil, so not too bad. Yeah, cool. So we will look at this. Could you switch it to the other side by side just so we get the full, yeah, there we go, full view here. I know it's not quite as big, but at least I'll always be on screen. So yeah, I do a lot of placement with tweezers underneath the microscope for something this small. The smallest parts are 603s, so it's not super duper tiny, but you still need to be careful when you're placing parts. And you want to try to avoid like shifting the parts around and smearing the solder paste around. You can a little bit, and it's not the end of the world because solder paste tends to like just kind of suck to the pads, and it will also automatically align parts as well. So if you don't get them like quite even, when the solder flows, the surface tension actually like pulls the part into alignment on the pads most of the time. Of course, if it's like really off, or if there's a lot of solder on one side and not on the other, like that can affect it and it can pull it in weird ways. But a lot of times, your boards will come out looking better than how you placed them. How I go about placing parts, like where do you start, right? Which ones do I do first? I generally start, like, I work either from in to out, or I start with things that are going to be really tricky to place. Like if I had a processor with a quad package, I would probably place that first and then put the passives around it, because I don't want to put all the tiny passives around it and then have to line up this thing, in 2 dimensions and be trying to do that over the passives that are already there. So center to edge, and or like difficult parts to place to least difficult parts to place. So for right now, what I like, so there's not really anything that's super difficult on this board. I think what I will do is, and also I'm not quite sure, these LEDs are right angle. So right here and right there. And I don't know how stable they're necessarily going to be to moving around. So I think I'm going to kind of save those for last. And I think I will start with the @tiny processor, and then maybe do resistors and capacitors, and then do these 3 SOT23 FETs, and then do my big switches and battery. Well, then do the LEDs and then the big switches and battery holder last. That's kind of going to be my method to the madness. All right. The other thing that I do is I only ever have one thing open at a time. So I will especially, and this is especially true for like passives for resistors and capacitors, where it is difficult or impossible to visually tell the difference between parts. This ensures that you only have like one value on the table at a time and reduces the chance of you like accidentally putting the wrong thing in the wrong place. So after, if I like had one thing that I try to do is take only the amount of parts that I need out of the tape. And so then if I do have any extra parts at the end, then, you know, I might go back and see if I missed something, or if I didn't, if I just have extra parts, I'll like just throw those parts away and like clear the table before taking the next part out. So yeah, exactly, Bob. Yep, center to edge. Yeah, kind of largest to smallest, but with the caveat being like difficult to place large things that are flat. So yes, like processors and stuff like that, but you don't want to place something like a connector first, especially if it's on the edge, because then you'll be like trying to work around it all the time. So, all right. So now I have my processor out here and turn it over so it's the correct side. And so now I'm looking for the dot, and because like the light is shining straight down on it, sometimes you have to like rotate it a little bit so that it pops out like that. So my dot right now, denoting pin 1, is in the upper left. My dot on the circuit board denoting pin 1 is the lower right. So we're just gonna gently rotate that part around like that. Grab it and place it. Yeah, and I sometimes just give them a little tap afterwards. One trick that I do in order to try to keep the tweezers as steady as possible. So, I like these curved bent tip tweezers. It's easier to work around other things that are sticking up on the board. And I personally like these ones that have the little foam cushy grips. They're just nice. But the one thing that I do, let me move this out of the way so that you can kind of see. So as I'm placing something here, you'll only be able to see, you know, what I'm placing in the shot. But what you're not seeing is I'm using my index finger and I'm like pressing down. I'm like creating like a little bit of resistance. So I'm pressing down with my index finger and I'm pulling up a little bit with the tweezer, and that just helps stabilize my hand, because I mean everybody's hands shakes to some degree, you know, and so that helps stabilize it, and it helps me place things pretty precisely. And I mean my hands still shake a little bit even without it. Probably has something to do with the coffee that I drink, but I'm not giving up coffee. That would be crazy. Well, I would just be very unpleasant in things. All right. I also have like a little bit of a key here. I printed out my bottom layer of the circuit board and marked what is what on it. I did not mark, I don't have all the reference designators printed on the silk screen, you'll notice that. And that's because, you know, for a badge, for a dev board, you kind of want you want to draw attention to the important things, right? Like, what does the LED, you know, indicate? Oh, programming power, you know, what are the two modes of the switches, that kind of stuff. If I had put all the reference designators on that too, it would have been just super cluttered and a lot of that would have been lost. So, you know, I just decided to leave reference designators off of this, so you do have to refer to, you know, a printout of that. I am still somewhat new to KiCad. In Altium, I can do assembly prints really nice that just show just the component pads and the silk screen, which is really like all you want to see. You don't really want to see the layers at all for an assembly drawing. I haven't figured out exactly how to do that in KiCad yet. So I'm sure there's a way, I just haven't figured it out. So I sort of have this mishmash of hand scribbled stuff, and the bottom layer printed out and mirrored. Okay, so, and I also have, so that tells me what the reference designators are. I also have my bill of materials printed out, and that tells me what part is which reference designator. So it tells me that like, oh, R3 and R4 are in fact 47 ohm resistors. Ooh, Robin, could you grab a pointy tipped multimeter? Because I think I changed the values of the resistors since the original bill of materials. That's the values of the resistor for the red, green, and blue parts of each of these LEDs, just to kind of like get the brightness a little bit more consistent between the three. Playing with the current that goes through each one, because each of them have different forward voltages, so each of them require different resistors to, even if you limit them all to the same current. Cool, thank you. So I'm just going to quickly probe the ones on the board that I've already done and see what is what. I'm going to just be careful with boards with paste that you don't accidentally like smear it all over the place. So let's see. Oh, these ones actually have a little bit of a coat on them. So that one is 100 ohms. That one's probably the same, 100 ohms. And 10 ohms. I really went to town for the blue. Blue typically has a higher forward voltage drop. Oh, and right, these are different LEDs than I originally designed in, because I have a bit of a pattern snafu. So yeah, they are different. So I'm just going to make a note of that. Cool. So we had R3 and R4, I believe. Oh yeah, that's not mirrored. Okay. So yeah, R3 and R4 are now 10 ohms. And then R2 is, oh, sorry. R3 and R4 are 100 ohms, R2 is 10 ohms. There we go. Cool. Alrighty. So, thinking now, it's already soldered. Don't get them mixed up. Cool. So, all right. We'll go ahead and start with the single capacitor on the board, C1. So I'm just taking, one capacitor out of the tape here. And off to the side. Tiny little capacitor. And that goes pretty much right under the chip, which makes sense because it's our power decoupling capacitor. So that goes right there. Cool. Now let's do our 10 ohm resistor, which is our this is the one that was all the way to the right. Just going to do it like that. My bottom layer is printed out mirrored, so it's a little bit, it's basically, a little bit backwards. But I'm going to also make it easy for myself. I'll move the board around instead of trying to like place it at an odd angle. I'll like keep my hands very, very much kind of, I don't know, horizontally oriented, and I'll rotate the board around so that everything is just easy to reach. So that was the 10 ohm. And then the other two were 100. 10 resistors away. So now I'm just taking out 2. So these are just like little digikey bags of resistors. This is the cut tape. And there's this little clear plastic is like clear plastic tape that's over the strip. And so basically you just peel that back to free the resistors, because the resistors are in these teeny tiny little pockets in that paper strip. So I'm just peeling back enough for 2, shaking them out on the table. Now I can place this one. And that one. Cool. And let's see, we have one more resistor, or actually I think we have a couple more resistors. So we have one right there for the programming LED. Oh, we got those guys there. Those guys are 10K. Yes, there we go. We have 5 10K resistors. So let's see. Yep, R6, R7, R9, R1, another 10K resistor that's right next to the capacitor there. I think that's helping our reset pin, I think, pulling it high. And let's see. And then we have, yes, the one that's by the LED, which is R5, which is 220 ohms. So I'm going to do the 220 ohm one next, because then all the rest are just 10Ks. So this guy is right there. And these actually do have codes on them. That's kind of nice. Some resistors, some 0603s do have codes, some don't. Some are a little more readable than others. But yeah, so 221, that's pretty standard for 220. 22, and then the last digit is the number of zeros. So if it was 223, it would be 22K. So yeah, these are nice that they have them marked on them. I think they're stackable parts. All right, and yeah, we're not using 47 ohm resistors in this one, and we got 10K resistors. We got 5 of those. Okay, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. And like when you're new to this, it's not at all uncommon for you to accidentally be holding them too tightly with the tweezers and have them just like ping and fly out of your hands. Like that still happens to me occasionally, and I can't tell you how many times that happened when I was new and, you know, gaining experience. It's okay. You will get the hang of it. Really like gentle pressure is best. It's harder to drop them than you necessarily think. So like one other thing that I do too. So, you know, technically resistors, it doesn't matter if they're upside down, right? They'll still work, but it's aesthetically unpleasing. So upside down is white. Right side up is the dark black on top with the writing on it. So you know, it can be hard to like pick it up and flip it over. So one thing that you can do is you can just like kind of press down, pick it up with your finger like that, and bounce it off the table, and there you go, it's flipped over. Of course, now I have to put this back into place. So that. This one. This one. Oh, yeah. Cool. So now we have all the 10Ks placed. That's placed. So those guys are going to be last. So I think I'm going to do the plain blue LED. Tiddlywinks with SMD parts, Bob says. Yeah, pretty much. That's those are the RGB LEDs. These are the solid blue programming power LED. So, you know, LEDs are directional, and with the small parts, it can be really challenging to figure out like which end is the cathode. So we'll look at this one here. This one, sometimes you can see like a green line or a green dot on top. I mean, this one, the two sides do look different. Like the side on the right looks like it might have a bigger marking and might be the cathode. What happens is you flip it over and you drop it. Where the heck did that little thing go? Really deep down. I feel like it's right on the board and I'm just not seeing it. I'm gonna find it at some point. This is also why you always buy lots of extra surface mount parts, because you will drop them and you won't be able to find them, and that is also normal. So I'm just going to get another blue LED. And we'll try to do this demo without screwing up then. Okay, so on the back of LEDs, okay, is a little symbol. And you can tell in some less pixelated world, that is supposed to be a triangle. And that's supposed to be the triangle of the diode pointing to the pad that is down right now. So this would be the cathode and that would be the anode. So now let's try to flip it over in a very, damn it, precise way. Well, I'm glad you guys are getting like the full experience here of parts flying out of your hands. Good thing I have a lot of extra LEDs. Yeah, that one's gone. Oh, wait, no, I found it. Aha, look at that. There we go. Okay, so again, okay, now the arrow is pointed up. So we're going to look at that top pad. All right, and it is, in fact, that one that is like, has a slightly thicker dark line. So now I know which the cathode is, and I'm looking at my board. It's pointed that way, so I'm going to grab this. Try not to drop it while I move the board back over and put it there. No problem. Cool. All right, and now, let's see, I have two more things. I think I'll do the FETs first. So I'll do 3 FETs that are 1, 2, 3 over there. 1, 2, 3. And these are pretty easy. These are pretty big parts. I accidentally, I think, used the hand soldering pattern off of KiCad, which is why it has like such ginormous pads going off of them. So I will make a small board wrap so that I can use the original LEDs that I intended to use, whose pattern didn't match the pins. And yeah, I'll probably adjust that pattern and make it a little bit smaller, just so it doesn't have quite so much solder on the pads. Sometimes that can be a problem. In this case, it's not a problem, like having too much solder there. It'll still flow to the legs and be fine, but in general, it's good to not stray too far from the manufacturer's recommendations. Because like if you have like a really tiny leg and a really big pad, it could be that the solder won't actually flow to the leg. It'll flow to like another area of the pad. So keeping your pads like pretty, like reasonably concise around your legs is a good thing, because it keeps all the solder in that area and makes it flow to the legs. All right, so now I'm going to do those RGB LEDs. This might be another experience with things flying all over the place. We shall see. Okay, so this is also, well, actually, yeah, but no, this is also a little bit of an interesting placement thing because there is a right and a wrong way to place these. There's sort of like a side that should be touching the circuit board. So let's see. I'm trying to do a little bit of figuring this out before I get the board involved. So, okay, so now you can see on these that on the right side there is a small green dot. And that denotes the cathode and the line on the silk screen. I'm just like looking here, you can see the same thing on the bottom. That's pretty nice. You can also see, maybe, I'm gonna try to flip this in the proper direction. I don't know if I can get this to actually balance on the lens. It seems like there's a little bit of a flat spot, not a huge one. Oh, hey, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so that dark thing is just a green marking. So that just denotes the cathode. Or actually, it's the anode in these LEDs because these LEDs have a common anode and an individual cathode for the R, the G, and the B. So these are actually anode marked LEDs, which is weird. So you can see that there are four pads on the bottom here. So this is the edge that should be in contact with the circuit board. You can see that these two pads in the middle kind of L up, and they actually attach to the inner guts of the LED. So like the guts of the LED are attached on each of these four kind of corner points, like those little half-moon corner points. And then there's just like sort of this L-shaped pad on the LED itself that takes these top corners and brings them down to the circuit board. So that's how those guys work. Now we're going to try to flip it back up on the proper. There we go. So now I know that all I have to do is like place this according to the silk screen and it'll all be good. So we'll just do that right now. I'm going to orient my board in an easy way and place that. So these are ones that you hope do a little bit of that self-wiggling aligning thing because it's a pretty fine pitch part. All right, and I'm just going to look at the other LED and make sure. Okay, so this one is not right side down, so I'm going to try to like flip it over. Not totally losing it. There we go. And then put this guy down. And I can verify right now that the green is actually towards the line on the board, which is the anode. So there we go. All right, those look pretty well centered to me. Cool. All right, just a couple more parts. And these are all the easy ones. Oh, hey, look, I found the other LED. Look, it's in the middle of the battery. Yes. I guess I could put that back in the holder, but whatever. It's okay to be down an LED. That's funny. I knew it was staring right at me. You guys didn't see it either, so ha! So which one's next? I'm going to do these little switches next because they're low and flat. And let's see, we've got a whole pile of those somewhere. One here. Yeah. Okay. These are nice. These actually have little alignment pegs in the center. You can see that there are actually two through holes in the board, and those line up with these little pegs on the switch of the body, on the body of the switch. Let's see, a little bit more. So those just line up with those two little pegs, and that keeps your switch nicely aligned during soldering, which is cool, during the whole reflow thing. Of course, it does make this not a truly 100% surface mount. part, kind of, because you actually need through holes in your board for this pattern. So if you're trying to keep your board, you know, if I had something on the opposite side of this board that I was trying to like not put a big hole in the middle of, then I would have to use different switches. I'm just like checking that with my finger to make sure it was fully seated into place. All right, so button's off. Sorry. And let's see. We'll do that one, which is the surface mount dip switches. Actually, I'm going to do the other one instead. I'm going to do that one. Notice that our workbench camera keeps like blinking, kind of. Yeah, that's why we stopped using that one, huh?
Yeah, I have a little note here. So I can forget.
Excellent, nice. We're going through HDMI to USB converters and HDMI switches, and the whole setup we have going on here is there's never a dull moment. Yeah, it's surprisingly, it's more difficult than you would think to get two HDMI videos switched into a USB on the computer, especially for a live stream that you don't want a huge delay while you're waiting for your cameras to switch. So that's that surface mount switch. And then the dip switch is 75 minutes. And then the last one is the battery holder. Woo. And right. And this one is actually like a little bit difficult because like it's kind of big enough to place by hand, except that there are a bunch of other things around it now. So it was still the right choice to do it last, but it is a little trickier than you might think. Because it's kind of big to place with tweezers, but at the same time, I kind of want to place it with tweezers. Let's see.
If you do
It's
it
not
sideways.
Sideways, yeah. So yeah, just like do it by hand. It doesn't, yeah, that's great, but this one doesn't matter so much. If we mush it around, except that we don't want to flip it off the board and take other parts with it. Yes, okay. Hey, how about like that? There we go. That's better. Now we can just kind of bump it around. So yeah, a lot of times if I don't get it quite right, I'll just like gently nudge it till it's in a pretty good spot. So yeah, that's pretty good. The style of battery holder can be a little bit challenged with the refill process too. Sometimes, since it is a metal part that has like a relatively large thermal mass compared to the rest of the things on the board, sometimes it doesn't want to flow very well to those. The solder doesn't want to flow very well to it. So we'll see how this works out. The other one worked out pretty great. Haven't had any giant problems with it. We've had boards assembled by other places that where this style of battery holder actually popped off because it has spring contact, so there's always going to be force upwards on it, and we were putting magnets on the back of it, which was helping with the force. And the solder here just wasn't flowed really well, and like this whole thing just like popped straight off of the solder joints on a few of our I voted badges when we first shipped those out. So we ended up going over them by hand and like just soldering the crap out of those, and then they were fine. But yeah, that's a bummer. It's always something. Okay, I think we're ready to take this to the oven. So yes, we'll swap around the video or the audio stuff again. Thank you for bearing with us. This is the first time I've done that with quite the setup, so there's always something new. Yes, I will take that camera, and I just wanted to point out that, like, ideally you want to keep the walk to the oven minimal, because you don't want to trip and lose your board and all of the things that you just carefully placed on it. So I will be being a little bit careful. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 trips. I'm going to do 1 trip with just the board out to there, and then I'll come back for the camera and the cider and do it in that order. So yeah, because I want to be kind of careful at this point. Something that I just realized that I forgot about that I did on the other board. So let's see how this turns out. I think we should be able to clean it off. We'll see. So this board has, a design on the front, and we want to keep that front looking very nice. And with these ovens, as the flux burns off, there's like a little bit of smoke, and that smoke can actually like discolor the silk on the board, and it can also discolor exposed gold, so the crown. On the last time I did this, I forgot I actually put Kapton tape over the front of the board, and Kapton tape is heat resistant. It's like actually developed for use in rework applications, so it doesn't become a giant melty mess or catch on fire or anything. But yes, I forgot to do that on that one. So, and it's kind of too late to do it. I can't, like, I already have the parts on there. I can't try to be taping it. It's just gonna not be good. So I'm just gonna put it in there. I'm trying to think if I want to try to space it off the bottom of the oven or not. I don't think I want to mess around with that either right now. I'm just going to hope for the best. But just to let you know, it might turn out a little bit discolored. And, when I get these made, basically I'm going to have to like collaborate with the board house and make sure that this surface is kept nice. Because yeah, we did have, I think with the F unicorns, remember how the gold on the unicorn was kind of tarnished, and we ended up like going through and like freaking polishing
like Brasso.
Yeah. The trials and tribulations of making your unicorns perfect and shiny, let me tell you. But yeah, so there will definitely be some extra instructions to the board house, which might, make them a little bit more expensive to assemble, but that's what happens sometimes. All right. Mission, don't drop the board. I'm going to open the door first too. Check that out. Thinking ahead. Obviously, I need to be drinking more cider. It's more fun when I screw things up. All right. Success. It is in the oven. Now I will switch out audio.
There. Unmute there. Sweet. Awesome. And sorry, my hand is in the way right now. We will go out here and start the oven. Here. Let me carry this better. There we go. Okay. So We now have our board in the oven, and I swear I didn't swap it out like a cooking show. That is the actual legit board. Yay. Okay. So we'll just say night night board. Have a good little bake. All right. And then since we already loaded our proper wave in there, we'll just do F1, temp wave auto execute. And as you can see, this will take about 8 minutes and it'll make a really loud beep. So we'll know when it's done. So I think at this point in time, it would be, if you guys have any questions about the process, this would be a good time to answer them. And I will go back into the video room. So yeah, feel free to pop up any questions. I might maybe take this chance to like pull up Arduino on the computer and take you through the code there, perhaps. Awesome.
Okay, I think we're back in business. Yay. All right. So, how are we going to do this? Robin, I think I'm going to kick you off of the computer because I'm going to need to do the screen sharing in Arduino and stuff.
The audio is quieter.
The audio is quieter now?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Is that any better? Maybe? Yeah? No? No? I think so. Think so? Okay, cool. We'll pump up the volume. All right. And we'll do this a little bit, maybe. Probably should have put that cam. Hi. All right. So I'm going to pull up Arduino and do a little bit of a screen share and see if we can get yet another source of video in on this business. Maybe? Oh, that's right. I'm running Arduino 2.0 beta, which takes a little bit longer to load right now. But I really like it. It's worth it alone for the night mode, for the dark mode. And it also saves your board setup with, you know, the information, I guess, about your with your code. So like when you open up an INO file, like for the @tiny4, even though if the last board that I was working on was like, you know, an Uno or something, it'll recall that the @tiny settings go with this particular INO file, which is really nice. All right, so I am going to screen share. I think let's screen share on that one so we don't get too confused. All right, screen 2, share. And, oh, awesome, there we go. Ooh, that's super tiny. I am going to see if I can make it bigger. Make it bigger for you guys. I think that might be better. Maybe. Where am I? StreamYard. Nope. Other StreamYard? Other StreamYard. Okay. Whoa. There we go. Okay. Cool. So yes, that is better. Now you can actually hopefully read it. Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's kept track of in the INO, or it's like somewhere else that associates like opening that INO with it. Yeah, it's super interesting. It's definitely like not written anywhere in my INO file, like which board. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So I did a lot of comments basically because I knew that this was a bit out of the ordinary. I'm just also really quickly making sure that I do have the most up-to-date version here on this computer. I think I should. Just doing a little git pull thing there. All right, we are up to date, in fact, yay. So yes, I commented this a lot because I was going to be sharing it probably with people who haven't done this kind of programming before. So these are the pins of the @tiny4 showing what they are connected to. This is a little bit about the programming interface for the RGB board. It uses a different programming protocol than the UNOs do. You can still use, if you have a super old school original Atmel AVR ISP Mark II programmer, you can use that. But not anything that's sold like that right now. They're all third-party knockoffs because the original ones were discontinued by Atmel for whatever reason. So in any case, if you have one of those, it will work. But if not, you can use a USB ASP. So that's USB ASP programmer. And those are all over the place. The only thing is you do have to follow the steps for updating the firmware to the latest version of USB ASP firmware, which is the May 2011 version. I don't know why. I think that the third parties who make them maybe have their own firmware or use an older version of firmware for whatever reason, but the older versions and the third-party versions don't seem to support the TPI programming interface, which is what the @tiny uses. So you do have to update the USB ASP to the May 2011 firmware in order to get it to actually talk USB ASP, which you can then, and which will then program an @tiny4. Where are we? Line 24, line 26 should say, oh, yes, you are correct. It should. I don't know if I have, oh, there we go. Thank you for the catch. So yeah, you can see right here that we've actually installed, so I'll do this the kind of the old school way. Boards Manager. Yeah, so this is all kind of different if you're used to the non-beta Arduino interface. Now the Boards Manager sort of comes up as the side panel instead of as like a separate window. But it's the same thing going on. So oh, and you do need to, this is a normal thing that you have to do in order to install other like third-party board support for Arduino. You have to basically give it a URL for the JSON file that tells you all about the boards. And so you do that in preferences. I feel like, I wish that this was a little different. I think that this is not like super beginner friendly, but let's see, it's this Technobloggy one. So Technobloggy is who made the @tiny 10954 board package for Arduino. And so you basically have to put that JSON URL into additional board managers URL, which is in preferences. And this is documented in a lot of places on the internet. So like, just search for like how to add, custom boards or like new boards to Arduino, and there are a ton of articles on it. So yeah, that adds a line in here, and then you click OK. And then when you go to Tools, Boards Manager, whoop, I just closed it. Over there, no, that's Sketchbook. I'm still learning. Okay, there we go. So now when it shows up, I can search for @tiny, and then you have the @tiny 10 core by Technobloggy, and it's on version 2.0 right now. So yeah, it's all good, right? Version 2.1. Sorry, yeah, version 2.1.0 right now. So and then you can install that. And basically what that does is it installs more or less an empty core. So you still have, oh, actually, I think they just updated it. So when I originally started this a year ago, there was like a little bit less. There was a little bit less functionality in the core, and you actually couldn't even use the like setup and loop structure. You had to, kind of do a more normal for C programming. You had to name your main function main. Then you have what would typically be in your setup are the next several lines, and then your loop is just a while one loop, which runs forever because one always evaluates to true, right? So the while one loop is your loop in Arduino, and everything that comes before that in your main function is in setup. So it's probably pretty intimidating to look at, like, if you've never accessed registers and pins directly. That's okay. One really good resource for this stuff that helped me out a lot when I was making that transition and learning stuff is a book. It is one of the Make books. It's called AVR Programming. I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head. I might just quick look it up. AVR Programming book. But it's basically written exactly to transition you from Arduino, like from the Arduino environment to any kind of environment. Elliot Williams. So yeah, I will try to put, let's see, I'll try to put a link in the chat here. I'm trying to see if there's a way to buy it directly from Make instead of Amazon. I'm actually not sure. Oh, there we go. AVR Programming Print Makershed. Excellent. I will drop this one in the chat. Yeah. Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah. Not a help. Nope, that was not what I wanted. Wow. Ooh, I hear the beep of death.
It's the window that has
In this one?
no, left one.
Left one?
Far left one.
Or left one? Oh, it's yeah. Sorry, lost where I was there. Okay, cool. So posting this. Thank you, Robin, keeping me on the straight and narrow. All right, so that's how you can buy that book, which is really good, and that tells you, it goes through all of this bitwise stuff and how to like read values of pins and toggle values of pins and stuff like that. I'm going to go to the oven and stop the fallacious beeping. Woo. And I'm not gonna switch. I'm just gonna bring the board out here and we'll look at it straight under the microscope. Right. We are ready to see it.
To show it big, you have to stop screen sharing.
Oh, I have
Is
to
that
stop
okay?
screen sharing. Yeah, that's fine. We can stop screen sharing for right now. It's a good way to pass the time while waiting for the oven to bake. Awesome. So check it out. We got, oh, thank you. We're all kind of cattywampus right now. It's cool. No, I think it's good. So, all right. This is what our board looks like. It's pretty good. So, oh, and I will say that like RGB turned out good. Like I thought that she might sort of, get all like yellowy from, from the flux burning off, but she did not. There's maybe like a little bit of discoloration in the gold, but that's okay. So yeah, so this is pretty good. Like I am not at all unhappy with these results. You can see that we have like pretty good solder joints everywhere. I feel like that side of battery thing could be, I mean, it's not popping off, but it doesn't look super well flowed to me. Like it's not, I don't know, I'm just not seeing like, it looks sort of still like a little grainy, like the paste is still a little pasty, like there are little solder balls in there. Whereas this side to me looks a lot smoother. I don't know if you can quite see that on the camera, but I think that's my only complaint. You know, the switches soldered well, the resistor is great. These LEDs look really good. I'll tip it up a little bit and adjust the microscope in a second, but like it definitely like straightened those out and pulled them out. I'm not seeing. Yeah, I feel like we maybe could have gotten like a little bit better flow to the pads, but I think it is attached. So I'm gonna call that, you know, good for homemade. You know, our main IC looks good. Our little tiny IC looks good. You know, all of those guys look good. So yeah, I think we're pretty good right now. So, oh, this is a little bit discolored though. And that happened last time, and that's a little surprising to me. Like, I wonder if maybe this particular dip switch is not necessarily rated for the temperatures or whatever. I mean, you know, it still seemed to work on the other board, but it certainly looks a little toasty to me, right? And it's hard for me to tell if that's like, is that because the plastic was actually starting to burn and melt, or is that like a solder fume sort of a thing? You know, hard to say. I mean, it still works. Okay. It does feel like there's like maybe a little more resistance than there should be. So yeah, that'll be something to look at. But yeah, that switch looks good. It's already set to program. We're set to off. That's good. Let's set this to rainbow first, maybe. Okay. So I think we're ready to maybe program this. Let's just do one sanity check, which is, I will turn this to on even though there's no battery, and just leave out power and ground. Make sure that leg is not actually touching. No, that's not technical. Hey, no beep. That's very good. I don't want power and ground to be shorted. That's the one thing that can make you the saddest. All right. So I think I'm going to try to program this live. And let's see, moving everything around. It'll be amazing if nothing breaks. All right, so I'm going to do this. Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, so I have not soldered on the programming connector, and that is kind of intentional. I have this adapter. So this is the USB ASP or ASP. I'm not sure what the proper way of saying it is. I have marked this one as TPI because I have reprogrammed it or reflashed its firmware. So it comes with the 10-pin connector and this long 10-pin to 10-pin cable. The ones that I then got off of Amazon, there is no official place of buying them, by the way. It's all just, it's open source. Anybody can make or produce a USB ASP. And so the ones that I got came with this little adapter board that goes from the 10-pin pin out to the 6-pin pin out that is more commonly used on, you know, AVRs. And then what I have going on is this SparkFun Pogo adapter. So it takes the normal 6-pin connector and has this little Pogo adapter. So the idea is that you can just like touch it to the board, press it in, do your programming, and then move on. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to quite work because this is, this was really meant to go in to like key into 10th inch spaced plated through holes, right? And then it just like perfectly sits there and you get really good contact on all of these pins and you can program pretty easily. I have these flat surface mount pads that are also like, they're spaced apart a little bit in the middle. So like, I think that these points will sort of just barely touch them. So I'm going to try this. It might not work. If it doesn't work, then I'll just go ahead and solder the header on. All right. So sorry, I can't really show this to you because like it's a short cable and there's, USB that has to plug in and all this stuff. So in fact, I don't even know if I have a available USB spot. I do need the mouse. Maybe I'll take this out and put this back there. Hopefully the mouse will still work. And I'll put this in here. Okay. So now I have the USB ass plugged in. And now also, the other thing about programming pogos like this is that now nothing is keyed. And so I have to make sure that I'm putting it in the proper way. Fortunately, the like connector above it, I've marked which side, and so I can tell like which side to line up on which side on the silk screen. And then I'm going to, let's see, get my Arduino all set up so that I can like hopefully click with one hand and, okay, and we are on the programming setting. Yeah, hopefully click with one hand and hold it down with the other hand. And if everything turns out just right, it'll be good. The first test will be if the programming LED lights up, which it's not because I'm not on it. Yeah, I don't know. This pattern just might not work for it. I didn't build this pattern with this super in mind. Oh, hey. Light is lighting up. Okay, we're gonna hope. Oh shit, we have to upload using programmer. This is more complicated. Control-Shift-U for next time. All right, let's see. Come on. Do it. Hold still. Don't move. Let's see. Program enable target doesn't answer. Yeah, I could share the screen. Let's see. So you can see what's going on here. Share screen. Boop. All right. So let's see. Boop. So yeah, burp. Target doesn't answer, so I think like one of my little pogo pins is not really making contact with the pads. That's why it's not answering. That or something else is messed up. But I mean, this programming thing is kind of janky. So I'm going to try it one more time. Control-Shift-U. Can I press that all with one hand? Oh, I think I totally can. Okay. You also, so another thing to know about this @tiny series. So there are 512 bytes, not kilobytes, bytes of flash. So there is no room for a bootloader. So you have to program these with the programmer every single time. So yeah, no easy programming through USB. So you can upload with the programmer with the Arduino. There's the normal little arrow tries to upload through a bootloader. But when you select upload using programmer, which is Sketch right here, then that uses that's what you use to actually burn a bootloader. It uses the programmer that you've selected here. We selected the USB ASP, and yeah, goes through that programming chain instead of like looking for a bootloader and trying that out. So, but we do have to do this Control-Shift-U or select it from this menu. We can't just use the upload button because that will look for the bootloader. All right, so I'm going to try again. Okay. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, well, we'll see. Okay, Control-Shift-U. I have full verbose logging and stuff going on here. Oddly enough, yeah, okay, program enable, target doesn't answer. So I don't think that this is going to work. So I'm just going to, I have the connector right here. I'm just going to quick solder it on, and then we'll see if not using the Pogo works. And I will stop sharing the screen. Boop. Cool. And go back to here and turn on the soldering iron. Awesome. I can probably turn this phone off because I don't think we're going to use that down. Cool, thanks. And I'll just turn this on. Just put that there. Run some solder around here. Drink some cider. Oh, right. Camera. Hello. Hello. Oh, no monitor. Oh yeah, we got it going on here. It's all good. I'll let Robin perform her magic on that. Meanwhile, I will drink cider. Okay. Cool. And where did my solder go? I really want this to program. I hope it works. Oh, there we go. Oh, I put it away. Check that out. Cool. So now I'm just going to kind of make an ugly blob on here just to kind of like tack this down. So this is the trick about this. You should put some of those little silicon thingies in here, little silicon finger pots in here. If you press down on this connector, you will press down on those pins, one of which, the one that you were soldering will heat up. You can try not to. This is some nice tight work in here. Awesome. Okay, there we go. You can see I singed the knob on that switch a little bit. Oops. Oops. What happens? I don't know if I can make that a little more friendly. Maybe I can scoot this over a little bit on the next rev. So instead of being like nicely centered, it'll be like a little bit off center, but it'll give people a little bit more room to solder this in if they want to. It's probably a good idea. It would be nice. I'm just gonna like reload that one. Awesome. Oh, that'll pretty much do it. Cool. Okay. And that one is directional, and I did line up the notch here with the notch on the silk screen. So, take two. Perhaps I need another adapter board with SMT Pogo pins. Yes, in fact, I was just thinking today of making one. Yeah, making my own with the Pogo pins a little bit further apart. There are also different types of Pogo pins. The ones that are used on this board are the pointy ones that are very good at like self-centering within plated through holes. They also make Pogo pins that are called crown pins, which are totally appropriate now that I'm thinking about it. But they basically like, they're kind of like a crown, and they have like a bunch of like shorter points all within the circle. So they will like basically make better contact with flat surface mount pads. So yeah, okay. So now I'm going to take off this little Pogo adapter, stick the USB ASP straight in. LED lights up. That's good. Control Shift Ew, come on. Oh, I should have shared my screen, huh? Share screen. Share screen. It's still saying that the target doesn't answer. Well, that is interesting. That shouldn't matter. Let's see. That shouldn't matter. Well, there might be something with our soldering that I have not figured out. Let's see. Am I plugged in correctly? Yes. Yes. So yeah, it's still Oop, I clicked on the comments. Whoops. Hide. Thank y'all. So just looking at this. So we got, I just want to make sure that all of my board stuff is correct. Yep. Chip is at tiny 4. Clock is a megahertz. Programmer, USB ASP. That should all be good. I'm wondering if we have like a little solder bridge somewhere or something not soldered somewhere that is affecting it. I'm just going to try one more time. There's always one strange error that is not actually an error, but this part really is. But there's always one error request that pops up, and it doesn't happen in the non-beta version of Arduino. It seems to be like a known issue, I think. But so there's one error that's not an error that you can ignore. But yeah, but this one is definitely not doing it. Interesting. Well, I'm going to have to look into this a little bit more. I'm going to just check this out under the microscope again real quick. And also, I'm just going to look at my USB ASP to make sure that, like, I'm definitely sending power to it. Just make sure it's, like, on 5 volts. Yes, it's on 5 volts. So, I know, back and forth, back and forth. It's a challenging camera day. What can I say? All right, and let's see. I will stop sharing. Yeah, designing a board does often involve auxiliary tasks. You're quite right, Bob. You always have to have a way of testing your boards, especially like in a kind of a easy way of testing them, especially if you are wanting to sell them, right? And let's see. Okay. And so you always want to test them before they go out the door. And often that involves like doing a test fixture or something, right? These boards are relatively easy to test. I mean, if this programmed and the eyes worked, we've tested all the functions and all the pins, and then we know it works. It's surprising. I'm totally like not seeing. I wonder, suppose a slightly different switch. Interesting. I wonder if we have like a reverse switch issue. I took the other switch out of the actual parts I was using. I took this out of like a different batch of parts that was like not in a reel, so that I wouldn't have to like dig a part out of a reel. But I'm just gonna see real quick. We got 8 minutes. 8 minutes before our turning into pumpkins time. Let's see. So I'm just going to kind of test here. Do I have a schematic for this board handy? No, that would be too easy. I just want to see where data lines are getting to the chip. Not right now, which is what I actually expected. So putting that back. This one, I don't know off the top of my head which pin it is. Doesn't seem to be making contact. I wonder if our switch is like a bit of a dud. Just because something looks the same doesn't necessarily mean it is the same. Okay. That's interesting. So it's not. So. I feel like our switch is not operating properly. So now those two should be connected, which they are. Okay. Now these two should be, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So that's good, that's good. That's working, that's working. Okay, so things are connected through our switch. Let me see if I have a schematic handy. Let's see if I have this. We'll see how many things this computer is happy with running at the same time. Okay, where am I? Schematic. Fortunately, it doesn't mind running KiCad. Cool. So, yeah, that is super interesting. So MOSI, what I was proving, should be pins 7 and 8 on that switch, and that goes into pin 1 on the processor. So the switch is all good. Cool, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So yep. And so on that. So pin 1 on the processor is this one. I also want to make sure sometimes, like the very tips of probes can be a little weird and not make good contact. So just making sure. And also, I think what I'll do is I'm just gonna super quick. I think like something's up in our programming connector doesn't seem to be well which is surprising because I mean there's solder there. There's definitely solder. So I mean, you know, a lot of things are possible. Not the least of which is that I'm like making a mistake because I'm live right now. That seems to be the time that I make mistakes. So this is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Makes no sense to me. Maybe it's just interesting. I wonder if the switch just kind of has high resistance, and I wonder if that's messing up our relatively fast signals that are needed for programming. 0.5 ohms, that's not high resistance. I wonder if that pin is not really soldered. Ooh, it might be fake soldered. Need an X-Acto knife. Okay. So, X-Acto knife. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like wiggle this pin. Oh, you see that? That shouldn't be able to wiggle. It looks like it's soldered, but it's not. All right. I like these kinds of problems. Easily fixable ones. So I'm just going to go down this whole guy and reflow all of those pads. Just in case there are any more that are lurking. And so this, when you do sort of the home reflow, it's not super uncommon for that to happen. It's just you're never going to get quite as nice of an even solder profile as a real board house will with like the right equipment, So, yes. All right, putting that back dirty. And now I'm just going to move it off a little bit. And the reason, by the way, that I use an X-Acto knife to do that and not tweezers is because I would have bent the tweezer tip doing that. And we treat our tweezers very nice here because our tweezers are kind of spendy, and there's nothing more frustrating than like a nice pair of tweezers that has been mangled. People who do that should just be summarily punished. You can tell I've worked in a lot of shops where people did not have respect for tweezers. Not this shop. Robin's good. All right, now. Oh, hey. Yeah, okay. Well, actually, those were reading before. I was reading before. Hey, that's what we like to hear. Woot, woot. Okay. This time for sure?
Yes.
This time for sure. Ooh, 7:01. Might be like just in time.
It's okay. We started late.
We did start late. So our pogo fixture might have actually worked. I'm not going to try. Well, obviously I can't try it again because it's all, oh, there we go. Because it's all soldered in now. But that's kind of good to know. But it's still, I still would want to design a different one though, because it was pretty janky. Right, plugging that in the right way. So this connector on the USB ASP is also not polarized, which kind of sucks. So that's why I drew in Silver Sharpie that line. That line lines up with the notch in the notch right there in the connector, so that when you plug it in the correct way, you can see the line through it. All right, it's time for sure. It's time for sure. Okay, we have LED. I'm going to screen share so that you can share in the excitement live. or recorded at your leisure, whenever. Okay. Ooh, yep, doing that. Okay, all right. Sketch, drum roll, that's right, definite drum roll. Upload using programmer. Remember, one error might be fine. Yeah, we don't care about message 2, I don't think. We'll see. For some reason on the on this version, the beta version of Arduino, like the debug stuff takes a really long time. Ooh, we got reading. Ooh, we got writing. Ooh, we got 512 bytes of flash written. We got verification. Boom! All right. So now the next test, which we will, here, I'll stop sharing my screen. It's not doing, the board isn't doing anything yet, so we have to verify that this is actually working. Stop sharing. Okay, I'm gonna go over here again.
Musical chairs.
Musical chairs. Okay, and we are set to off right now. Ooh, I think we need a fresh battery for this occasion. I'm just gonna go grab one of those real quick. Not grab one through the door. Okay. Let's see. Oh. So we gotta do a few things here. We gotta put in the battery. It's set to off right now. In the battery. So before we turn it on, we also have to make sure that our switch is set from program to run. And we'll verify that our RGB dip switches are all in the on position too. So now, let's see. Wait. Oh. Hey! Check it out. Whoop! Successful board. So she's in rainbow mode. She's rainbowing through her eyes. We'll see if red mode works, which is the other switch on the other side. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, going into red mode, depending upon where it is in the thing. But yeah, there we go. I think we did it. Happy dance, happy dance. It's always so satisfying when you like troubleshoot a problem on live video. And it's not like really a problem with me. Yeah. So there we go. We just made a board. Super exciting. It probably seemed like a long process because it like took us 2 hours and there was a little bit of troubleshooting. If I wasn't talking, if I was just like super focused on this, I think it probably would have maybe taken me somewhere, probably like maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour to do one. And if I were doing 2 at once, it wouldn't have been that much more time, because I would have both. I would have stenciled the solder paste on both of them and been doing each component on both of them as I went. So it would have just been twice the amount of components placing. That's about it. We would have put them through the oven at the same time, same baking time. So if you're doing like 3 or 4 or 5 boards, it's a pretty like efficient little way of doing it. So cool. I'm glad you liked it, Bob. I'm glad I finally got to like do the whole reflow stuff on live too. I've been meaning to do it, and then had all those troubles with the LEDs, and then finally found the right LEDs. So yeah, it's been a process. But yeah, so like what's next for Ruth? Is she ready yet? Is she ready? Almost. So there are a couple things that I mentioned that I'll probably do. I'm going to revise it anyway because I want to change that LED pattern. A little bit sharper there. Basically, I already bought like a whole bunch of LEDs with a different pattern, with a different like pin mapping to the footprint. So the pattern is actually the same, but it's just different pin mapping. So I'm going to reroute that little section for the LEDs that I already have involved. And I'm going to move this switch over this way a little bit, and maybe even move this switch a little bit closer to the edge of the board too, just to give you more room around this to hand solder it if you want to be using it as a dev board and for programming and stuff. I'm going to do that. Is there anything else that I said during the course of the stream that I was going to do? I feel like there was one more thing. Oh, yes, I was potentially going to change. Yeah, I'll probably change the SOT23 patterns there to just have like slightly smaller pads. You might not be able to tell now or really when I placed it, but they are kind of like large and giant. And I might, that one's pretty good. So yeah, I think like those three things, and that's about it. And I think I do want to, I would like to order one more batch of quick turn prototype boards in order to make sure to verify that everything is good. And I'll probably do those from Osh Park again because like it's a week and it's really cheap. So I'll do one more purple rev, and then we'll be ready to order a bunch of them and put them up in the shop. And for the ones that are going to go up in the shop, I'm not going to be doing this whole thing because I'm not crazy. So I'll be sending those out to a board house to assemble. So yeah. So yeah, I'll just like order everything from the board house. I will end up supplying them with some parts, which I wouldn't usually necessarily do if I'm ordering something completely turnkey. I would just leave it to them to buy the parts. But with the whole crazy supply chain shortage, I wanted to like, I don't know, there was one day where there were no At-Tiny4 processors. And so I ordered a bunch of At-Tiny5s, and then At-Tiny4s came in stock again. So I ordered a bunch of At-Tiny4s. So, I just had to order them when they were in stock, and then I'll supply those to the board house. And that's also why I already have the LEDs, because I wanted to buy a bunch of them and ensure that I had stock in those, because they're like those side mount, surface mount ones, like are a little bit of a specialty part. But like, the FETs are no big deal. I already have a bunch of these switches and the battery connector in bulk from other boards, so I'll probably supply those as well. Yeah, and that's about it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Bob, for being active in the comments. Love chatting, as always. And yeah, I'll keep you all posted on Twitter. Definitely subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And yeah, see you next week. I don't know. I don't have I have been lax on scheduling people and guests and events for this, so I don't quite know what we're going to do next week yet. We have a ton of kits, though. I mean, we can always solder something up. That's not a big deal. Why is it just awesome. All right. Well, see you all later. Bye. Cheers to broad cider.